morning to everybody, and I've had a few questions since I arrived here, and some of you have read the brochure, in fact, most of you have read the brochure and have seen that I'm going to talk on the inner pyramid. And people are asking me, well, what is the inner pyramid? And I'm going to start by showing you a picture of a symbol of the inner pyramid. The Tibetans have put the pyramid into the heart essence of their teachings, as you can see in this mandala picture here. You can see that the four sides of the pyramid with the four colors are very, very prominent there. And then on top, there's a circle which contains the very, very essence of the space from which all the other elements emerge to create our manifest existence. I'm going to show you a couple of these, just to prove to you that I'm not telling you that it's just one picture that has this pyramid element in it, but that most of the Tibetan mandala pictures that you will see have this pyramid element. And it's all pointing to our heart essence. When the Tibetans create these mandalas, they do it very, very specifically. They will spend hours and days making these pictures from sand, from colored sand, scraping through little funnels onto the floor of the temple, and bit by bit the mandala will emerge, and as it emerges, so does manifest existence come into being from its very, very heart essence, from its very source, from the very seed, from the very, very beginning. And this is not the end. This is just representing the house of the deity. The house of the deity, which is you, which is your essential consciousness, which is what resides within your heart, which is what emerges as the whole of manifest existence as you see and perceive this universe, this magnificent space around you. You are the artist and creator of your existence. And this is what this mandala is demonstrating. Let me get further into the heart of it. Here you will see there are 5 deities. In the center, there is the very heart essence of our wisdom. And this wisdom represents our mirror-like quality. And as we gaze out into this space around us, so we are mirroring our consciousness that resides at the very, very center of our heart essence into this consciousness through a process of the 5 elements. At the center is the space. At the center is the wisdom of mirror-like wisdom. So you will see here that there are 5 deities. Each of the male deities, which is the larger deity, is representing one of our wisdoms, and he is in embrace with his female consort, which is representing one of the elements. So in the center, we have the space. And from that, when movement occurs, we have wind, which you'll see here in the bottom right corner, which is the green color deity. And this is expressing the movement of the space as consciousness starts to express itself, as consciousness wishes to experience itself, so it starts to move. And with that movement occurs friction, and friction causes fire. Here we have the element of fire, the red deity in the top right corner. So from movement comes the friction of fire, and from the fire we have the dissolving of the potential of the element of earth, which is residing within the space, which is in the top left corner, the yellow deity. And he is representing the earth, so we have this, this idea of now a further process of manifestation coming into being. From this element of earth coming into being, the fire heats the earth, which dissolves into nectar, which is the bliss, which is the water element of the 5 elements. So I've been through the process of space in the center, wind, fire, earth, and water. A lot of people misrepresent the meaning of Tantra these days. People think it's something sexual, which in a sense it is, because it's the union of non-duality. So it is the union of all relative polarities coming together into their actual space of being. Now, back in the days when I was living in Nepal, in the earlier part of this century, I can say now, I was studying with a great master, His Eminence Chökyi Trichin Rinpoche, who guided me through the inner teachings of the Tibetan Buddhist Vajrayana tradition. Now, I'm sure all of you are very familiar with the Buddhist teachings, but perhaps not the Vajrayana teachings, which are very much expressing how the process of our existence and our reality that is lying in front of us, how that is completely connected to our heart essence. So it eliminates the idea of self and others, and it brings us to a space of responsibility where we understand that we are the creators of our reality. We are responsible for our own existence. We are responsible for helping others in our environment, and we are therefore responsible for the environment around us. So it brings us into a space of complete responsibility, whereby we bring this idea of the 5 wisdoms in union with the 5 elements into our heart space. And from there, everything emerges. Now, everything started when I was sent by my spiritual guide, His Eminence Chökyi Trichin Rinpoche, who I just showed you. He sent me on a trip to this wonderful valley in the high up in the Himalayas, in fact beyond the Himalayas, just before the border of Nepal, of Tibet, between Tibet and Nepal. And this valley holds its own mystery and holds its own, in itself, you can't completely see from this picture, unless I had a drone to show you it from above, where you would see that there's a central place and there are 4 small villages located around this central ridge, which look like our heart essence. They look like the picture of the 5 deities I just showed you. It looks like the pyramid mandala of the Tibetan, the standard Tibetan mandalas. So it's a very, in its geographical layout, and it holds this sacred map of our heart essence. And my teacher sent me here with a camera and told me, take photographs. I had no idea why, but the lamas often don't explain to you why they're giving you a particular instruction. It's just for you to explore and for you to find out. Now, by chance, in inverted commas, another lama who was a good friend of mine, who is one of the lamas of a temple in this valley, gave me an old camera about a week before my teacher gave me this instruction to go and take photographs in this valley. And so I went on this journey, and I was like a maniac with this camera. I mean, I was taking pictures of rocks, of trees, of this tree formation, of that little cluster of buildings, of these people, of these, everything and anything I could lay my hands on, I was taking photographs of. And this was a print camera, you know, click and wind. So it was, you know, I had like 24 reels of photographs when I came back. And I printed over 1,200 photographs of bits and pieces, you know? And so when I got back, oh, here we go. Sorry, there's one more slide here that I want to show you. This is myself with Muktinath Lama at his temple in Muktinath itself. So when I came back, I did two things with these photographs because, you know, I had this pile of pictures and I'm like, I need to do something. I can't just take all these photographs and like keep them in a drawer or something. So I had quite a big room where I was staying, and I just laid out all the photographs on the floor and I left them there. And I thought, you know, as I was wandering around in and out of my room, some of the photographs started jumping out at me. And so I would go and pick it up and kind of put it to one side. And then another photograph would jump out at me and I'd pick it up and put it to one side. And then I ended up thinking, I'm going to make something with these photographs. And actually I ended up making two things. One of which was this book, The Rainbow Bridge. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to show you inside this book on the slide, but inside this book I show a number of pertinent pictures to go along with this an explanation of what I went through on this journey to Muktinath, but a very existential expression of my journey. It was a sacred journey. It was bringing me deeper into my heart essence. And that was, of course, what my Lama was intending on when he told me take photographs. He had the foresight to know that these photographs would cause me to create these different artistic expressions. The second thing I did was with the photographs that were laid all over my floor. I started picking out the ones which were jumping out at me. And then, you know, I'd kind of lay them out here and there, and then I started making a mandala. And it just, at the time, he had also given me a very strange instruction, which included the nature of the 5 elements. Specifically speaking, he told me Tangtong Gyalpo was a very great master of Tibet. He went to Muktinath, he overcame the nature of the 5 elements, and he flew around the world 3 times. Bingo. And then I went to him again and I'm like, Rinpoche, I have been looking up the history of this great master Tangtong Gyalpo and nature of the 5 elements, and I can't get any evidence. You know, I was on a different track. I can't get any evidence that Tangtong Gyalpo went to Muktinath and this. He stops me. Tangtong Gyalpo was a very great master of Tibet. He went to Muktinath, he overcame the nature of the 5 elements, and he flew around the world 3 times. So by this point, I'm starting to understand that there might be an instruction in this sentence for me. So I started to look at the nature of the 5 elements. Hence, so I have the photographs, I have this instruction of the 5 elements, and I create this. So you will see, as in the mandala, the Tibetan mandala we saw earlier, and the five deities, which are the union of wisdom and the elements, you will see that I've created, in the bottom left corner, is actually a green color green bowl color representing the wind. In the bottom right corner is the red color representing the fire. Top right corner is yellow representing the earth. And in the top left corner is the water, circular water. These shapes are all pertinent to the highest tantric yoga of Tibetan Buddhism, the shapes according to the elements. So wind, fire, earth, water, and space in the center, of course, because it's from space that all these elements emerge and dissolve. So you will understand that this is not a static diagram. It's not just a picture of the 5 elements. This is moving. This is an expression of, this is dynamic. This is an expression of the elements emerging and dissolving in one very expressive movement of dynamic activity. After that, I created this, this was my second image that I created at the same time, again with these photographs from Muktinath. And instead of putting the elements in separate formation, I put them all on top of each other. And now I wish it was a slightly larger. You will see that the pyramid starts to emerge in the central part of this picture. Actually, there's an octahedron, and there's this on the edge. You will see the 4 what are termed as the bliss worlds, which are also carrying the same dynamic energy that the 2 keys, 1 lock, the picture before, was expressing. And all this I put into my book, The Living Pyramid, which was how I started this process, and also how after I made these 2 pictures, which you've just seen, how these 2 pictures then emerged into a movie. Because it was from these 2 pictures that I understood that there could be something much more dynamic also, and that I could put these structures into something that could move. I now had static pictures, and now I needed something that could move and express this meaning within them. So how was I going to create this movie? I wanted a theme that would be, that would carry the meaning of the essential teachings within it, and would also embed the teachings within it. Not just be a movie about pretty places or lamas or talking about the teachings, but would actually embed the structure of the teachings within it, and then I would be able to transmit the meaning. And in my book, The Living Pyramid, I managed to express and to tell the story of exactly how I did this. The process of making the next piece of work that I did was I decided that I needed to create a way to show the union of absolute and relative existence. And to do this, I would need to choose a couple of symbols. In order to express absolute existence, I chose the circle. And in order to express relative existence, I chose the square. And I put them together. So this is a picture of me trying to decide how to embed the union of absolute and relative existence into the timeline of the movie. So what I really wanted to do was to find a way that that absolute and relative existence would unite. And having drawn this picture of square and circle inside square inside circle inside square inside circle, etc., etc., I realized that I could never ever reach the center, that this was an infinite process. This would never ever ever reach a point of union. I did something a little bit drastic. I drew a line from the outer circle from one square corner to the inner corner of a square, and then so on until the middle. But then I realized that I was still in the same predicament, that the union of the square and circle was still not going to occur, even when I did this. Anyhow, I bought some materials, I bought some copper plate, and I drew the circle and square and circle and square, circle and square, then I cut out this spiral diagram. But then, of course, it was like a floppy spiral. And so I needed something to stand it on. So I cut out 2 equilateral triangles and then placed the spiral over the 2 equilateral triangles. And in doing that, I realized that I would create the union of the circle and the square. Then I understood that it is the shape of the pyramid, this open shape of the pyramid is what unifies the circle and the square. So here again you have an example of the 5 elements. You have the square base, you have, which is the earth, you have the circular base, which is the the water, you have the triangles, which is the fire, and you have the spiral, which is the wind, and the mirror, which is the space within which everything appears. This I wrote about in my book, The Pyramid Spiral Dance of the 5 Elements. In 52 verses, I wrote the meaning of this art piece and how this dance of the 5 elements emerges, like I explained earlier, from the space, the wind, the fire, the earth, the water, into manifest form and then dissolves again back into space. You can see in the picture that this is so, how it emerges. This is the consciousness, the wind of consciousness that is dissolving into its spacious nature and emerging again into manifest appearance. But the mirror changes everything. The mirror changes everything because without the mirror there, it's just a solid piece of manifest form. It's an art piece. But once the mirror appears, we have a whole nother space of existence coming into play here. I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but first of all, I'm going to play you the first half of the movie that I made in order to express this this image. In this movie, I have embedded this image in using the music, using the narration, using the visuals, and using timing. I have embedded this image into the movie so that it becomes a transmission of the meaning of the nature of the 5 elements and the meaning of our heart essence. So the making of this movie was really something very, very inspiring. I actually made 3 versions of it. And in the first version, it was a process of trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. I knew I wanted to embed this union of absolute and relative existence. Again, you can look at absolute and relative existence as similar to that mandala of 5 aspects. In the center is the absolute reality, which is empty of any manifest form. But emerging from that is relative existence. And relative existence is emerging as a process of the 5 elements emerging. So as the wind creates the fire, creates the earth and the water, then they all come into existence, then we have this union of absolute and relative existence going together. So I wanted to put this into the movie, but how was I going to do this? How was I going to embed this meaning into the timeline? And this is what I had to figure out. It was, so then I made the picture of the circle and the square, then I made the Circle of Immortality art piece, and once I had this art piece, I knew that I had a structure to embed into my movie. But it wasn't a simple process. That's why I made 3 versions of the movie. The first one was much longer, and then the second version I cut it down by about 2/3. And then it was only in the 3rd version that I really managed to find a way to express this. I wanted to show you the first half of the movie now because I wanted to give you an idea of how I laid out the movie in terms of timing and in terms of narration, in terms of the music, and in terms of the visuals. You will see in the first part of the movie, you will see that we move from place to place. The first place you're going to see me taking pictures of are Muktinath. Muktinath is the picture I showed you of this valley where you've got the central ridge and the 4 villages around it. The one that has this sacred geometry embedded into it. The second place you're going to see is Lumbini, which is the birthplace of Lord Buddha. And even in that, we're jumping from the highest mountains of Nepal to the lowest lands of Nepal. So we've got a polarity there. The third place you're going to see is a place called Maratika that you'll find in eastern Nepal, which is where the Caves of Immortality, it's a place called the Caves of Immortality. Very, very special place, which again, there's a mountain, and inside this mountain, there's this, it's almost like a volcano with a magma tube in the center of it, like this hole at the top of the mountain. And I'm going to show one circumambulation around this mountain. So in the Muktinath visuals, you're going to see this space aspect, location and space, sacred geometry, location and space. But what I do is I go to different locations around this central point, and I take visuals, but I'll take visuals of activities going on from a distance. Then I'll come in closer and closer and closer, and then create a kind of spiral of the visuals so that the camera is going around and around and around and around and around, but coming closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the very, very center of the location. So in that sense, in the Muktinath visuals, I'm creating these little spinning vortices of time and space. Now in the Lumbini visuals, I'm creating, I go through a period of 24 hours. So it starts with one set of visuals in the evening, and then it goes through a whole day of activity, and it returns to that set of visuals in the evening. So you've got one circle of time in the Lumbini visuals. Then, as I said, in the Maratika visuals, I do one rotation around this mountain. So you've got this idea of space and time and vortices of spiral movements occurring within the visuals of the movie. Then, as far as time is concerned, you'll see that I've chopped up the various locations into specific segments. And actually, this will completely align with the shape of the Circle of Immortality art piece that I showed you, the spiral with the... I'm going to show you the first half of the movie. Please relax and enjoy this.
Composition of basic shapes. Form held within its spacious circumference. The circle of immortality. Magnetizing to behold, a thought appears, requesting its meaning. So do the symbols speak of essential truths, appearing in a map of colorful visuals, images of compassion, and accompanying sensations of bliss, revealing, reminding, recognizing. So focusing mind upon meaning, watch the space. Passing continuously through existence, movement driving us to the source, beginning and end of continuity. One point, same point, no point. Wind carries all to the immortal meaning, perfect truth of each one of us, searching truth until it recognizes. Spiraling upwards and downwards simultaneously, spinning vortex of wind, creating the path to its innermost sanctum, dissolves into space, thus resting as potential in immortal nature. Symbolic shapes appearing everywhere. Space to hold them everywhere. No space, no appearance. Impossible truth of reflection. Multitudes of appearing symbols of the five elements flow through the realm of solid existence, dancing to the tune of liquid being, absorbing the space of gaseous form. Turning in a circle, the wind spins, set on course to the center, changing orbit closer to the nucleus of its turning, moving inwards to its center, shooting outwards into vast open space at its apex. Knowing its path just by being perfectly the wind, dissolved in stillness whilst abed with space, stirring with movement, rising from the nest of space, walking with potential to perform action. So does wind appear as anything at all, codes of wisdom written within natural appearance, shapes divulging their knowledge to all who watch their symbolic show. Unspoken sensations, stimulators of compassion, foundation wind, transformation arena of the five elements, performing their dance of being. No light, no appearance, yet from movement fire appears as heat igniting the wind. Turning around on a spin, wind breaks ordinary orbit, heating, spiraling, seeking its point of dissolution into empty space, into stillness, no wind. Double triangles, ascending and descending base of spiraling wind, emanating its point of dissolution, projecting appearance within the ocean of existence. Fire and wind heating a natural spiral, creating a natural passage, reaching the apex of existence without trace. No heat, no life. Wind powered by heat, life force, spiraling to its rested, stilled nature, pure fire. Two separated points come together at an apex, their point of union. Nature of triangle. Human lives. Flames of wind spinning on the energy of solid, illusory existence, circulating the circumference, diverting inwards to the center. The faster it turns, the more heat it generates, more light it generizes. No light, no appearance. No appearance, no bliss. No bliss, no compassion. Volcano of light, channels connected to the central course, taking the upward path, erupting into its spacious nature at the apex of its being. Elements, fire of their dance, encompassing two spaces within one space. One with a foundation of earth, and one a foundation of water. A four-sided pyramid, foundational base, at the same time both circular and square-shaped, both liquid and spacious, supporting solid appearance across which wind may wind the path, carrying it to its apex. The space of the channel offering it passage, simply being, allowing its flow.
So, we have reached the heart, essence, center, spacious place from which everything manifests, from which everything emerges and to which everything dissolves. We've been through the wind, we've been through the fire, and now we're at the very, very center, which is the spacious part. We still have the earth and the water to go through. I'm just looking in the back and I'm being told we've got 15 minutes left. I did want to show you the rest of the movie, but I think we're going to have to keep it at just half the movie. I think you've got the picture, have you? Have you understood? That one of the elements that you may have noticed in there, which is really, really pertinent to the whole thing, is this expression of how the last visual of the place will dissolve into a rainbow around the sun that will dissolve into the blue sky. And inside that blue sky, I'm showing one of the elements. The first element you saw was the wind, and I used the Circle of Immortality art piece, the spiral, to express that. Then once that expression is completed, it dissolves again into the circle around the sun, the rainbow around the sun, which dissolves back into the blue sky. Blue sky dissolves into the circle around the sun, dissolves into the first visual of the next place. This is really important, and I want to describe this to you, because this is expressing the fundamental three layers of our reality, the three dimensions within which we exist. The visuals are representing this gross, manifest, solid realm which includes all the elements, all the solid elements. The rainbow around the sun is expressing the dissolution of this manifest, solid, gross realm into a subtle level of reality. So our emotions, our thoughts, our energy, a subtle level of reality. And then the blue sky is our fundamental, empty, pure, spacious heart essence from which all this arises, emerges and dissolves, and emerges and dissolves. And through the Circle of Immortality piece, let me come back to the art piece. You will see, just a minute. So this art piece, so this part of the art piece that is solid and is sitting on the mirror, this is our consciousness. For a long time I was confused. I thought this is the solid manifest existence. Then I realized it's not. This wind of consciousness that is standing upon the fire of our existence, which is sitting upon the earth and within this water, so the five elements, this wind of consciousness is our perception, is our state of consciousness that is expressing itself into the mirror of the space around us and will emerge exactly as we express it. So as this spiral is like this, so in the mirror it is like that. So as we express desire into this mirror, so desire is emerging from, it comes back to us. So as we express wisdom, so wisdom comes back. As we express jealousy, so jealousy comes back. So like this, what consciousness is going through in its process of perception will exactly and perfectly, without any doubt, express itself into the space of reality. And that is what we call karma. It's as simple as that. So I've got a million other things to talk about. And I actually express all of this in a book which I have just published literally last week, which is called The Living Pyramid. I did show you a picture of it before. I have one also here. And I'm going to ask Patriji if he would please come up onto the podium and help me to launch this book. And here it is. You will see here the four places that the four places that I show in my movie. You've got the three places. You had the Muktinath visuals in the beginning, then you had the Lumbini visuals. So you've got the key place of Muktinath is on the left. On the bottom, you've got the Lumbini temple where the Lord Buddha was born. At the top, you've got the caves of immortality, and to the right, you've got the Bodhanath Stupa, which itself is such a sacred symbol. And I mean, the fact that I lived looking at this stupa for 6 years may have caused me to create some of these images. I mean, itself, of course, had its invisible impact on my own consciousness. So here is the. You don't mind to just unwrap. Just get rid of this. Thank you. So it's within this book, the pages of this book, and you'll see how long it is. I mean, I've tried to pick out a few of the elements to discuss with you today, to tell you how I made this movie, but each and every second of that movie is pertinent to the meaning of the pyramid, the circle of immortality, the structure of the image, and it's all written within these pages. Can we light the... In India, when there's an opening or a launch of some type, we light candles. Patriji, this is for you. This also for you. Thank you very much, Patriji. Thank you so much, really. I appreciate that. Thank you. So I've tried to express the meaning of this, of how I made this movie and how I embedded the pyramid into this movie in this book. The one thing that I haven't mentioned, which I would like to mention, I want to show you the layout of the movie. So this is the timeline of the movie. You will see here, we got to the central point, but exactly in immaculate timing. You see where I've written the lines. These are the sections where you have the rainbow, the visual dissolving into the rainbow, into the blue sky, and then the element, and then again dissolving into the rainbow around the sun, blue sky. And those mark the 4 edges of the pyramid. You'll see there are 5 here. Why? Because obviously I'm working with a linear timeline. I have no choice. Although we know that time is not linear, time in relative sense is linear, time in its expansive sense is absolute. This is what I wanted to do, is I wanted to put this union of relative and absolute. Remember I told you that earlier. So if you can just imagine bending the end of that timeline around to the beginning and making it into a circle, you will see that there are the 4 edges of the pyramid coming to the apex, which is the center of the movie that you've just seen. And the music that you just heard, this is also the mantras that I use for this music are also representing this 3 dimensions, these 3 layers of reality that we exist in, the gross, the subtle, and the empty, and the subtle and the gross. So they are emerging and dissolving. So throughout the movie, what you've got is an emerging and dissolving of reality through music, through timing, through visuals, through... I think I am pretty much out of time. Oh, I have 5 more minutes, so I'll go on a little bit. You will see in the visuals how I've tried to express the meanings. The birds are spiraling up and down. This is just a small vortex of space and time, you will see the dance of the llamas. Actually, these llamas were moving around in a circle, but in my visuals, I made them move even more. I made them by focusing on this side, that side, this side, that side. I got them to dance even more. Then I went closer and closer to them till I was even showing the lips of this llama taking this nectar into his mouth, and the drops of the nectar coming from his beard, coming from his moustache. So I started outside and I went closer, 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 involving all the aspects and the people and the elements. This is creating one little vortex of time, one little vortex, spinning vortex of energy. I met Sam Osmanagic at Patriji's place in Bangalore, Pyramid Valley. And having watched this movie, he has invited me to make a movie in Bosnia on the pyramids. And I'm just going to show you, because it's kind of nice. I'm going to show you the structure that I am now going to embed into my next movie, which is way more complex, I think, even than this one that you've just seen. This is Crystal of Time, and this is a work in progress, and this is the structure that I'm embedding into the movie about the Bosnian pyramids. This is expressing a perfect octave of harmonic resonance. It's including fractals of phi geometry, which you can see in the spirals. It's including the crystal aspect, which I know a number of you have been to Bosnia, so you will be on the same wavelength here, but Bosnian pyramids are full of crystals in the ground underneath them. And also, I mean, there are many other aspects in here that I have to figure out a way now to put this into my visual of the Bosnian visuals that I've already taken. And so I hope that in due course I will be writing another book about how I embedded this structure into a movie about the Bosnian pyramids, which will be something like what I've just launched, the Living Pyramid. So I thank you very much for your time.